Hey, this is Evan Deal, and welcome to Living in Indianapolis, Indiana. Today, we are diving into the pros and the cons of living in Westfield, Indiana. It sits just north of the city in Hamilton County. We're so excited to dive into this amazing city. But before we get into that, hit the like button on this video, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're notified every time we upload a new video here on Living in Indianapolis, Indiana. We're going all over the city exploring the different areas of what makes Indianapolis such a wonderful place to live. Now with that, let's dive into today's video. All right, one of the best pros of living in Westfield, Indiana is there's room to grow. So Westfield's population is around 57,000. So that's a little over half the population that you see in Carmel and in Fishers, but Westfield is still booming from a population perspective. In fact, it's almost doubled in population over the last decade. That's pretty explosive growth, but there's still tons of land. There's new builds going up across Westfield. There's plenty of great neighborhoods all across the city to be able to, get a home in, live in, develop your community in. Really, across the entire area, there's plenty of room for expansion, no matter what you're looking for, whether you're looking for something a little more established to move into, or you're looking to create something entirely new. There's also a mix of property types, which we'll dive into a little bit later in this video. The next pro, and maybe the biggest pro of living in Westfield, is the amazing complex known as Grand Park. So Grand Park is one of the most nationally renowned youth sports complexes there is really anywhere, but certainly within Indiana as well. It's enormous, and there's every sport you can think of. There's tons of baseball fields, tons of football fields, tons of soccer fields, tons of basketball courts, and every other sport you can think of is covered in Grand Park. It is a truly remarkable sports complex, and it's sprawling. There are tournaments there, like national tournaments. If you are heavily involved in youth sports, or you have kids who really want to get involved, Westfield is a great place for that culture. I've mentioned in other videos that Indianapolis is a sports crazy town. We love our sports everywhere across the city, and Westfield is definitely among the pinnacle of that, with this amazing complex that you're really not going to see anywhere else. Another one of the great pros of living in Westfield are the highly regarded schools. So Westfield schools are typically ranked within about the top 15 of all the schools within Indiana, and Westfield High School has about 2,800 students. So it's a little bit smaller than some of the other schools in the area, with Fishers, Hamilton Southeastern, Carmel. These are larger schools, and Westfield has a little bit of that smaller school feel with 2,800 students. And typically speaking, these schools are very highly regarded in terms of the state rankings, and it's considered a very good place to learn. And our last pro of living in Westfield, Indiana, is all the green space and all the nature. I've talked a lot about how you can find different pockets of nature all over Indianapolis, and Westfield is definitely one of those places. With the city still expanding, there's tons of farmland and tons of agrarian areas that are still there within Westfield, undeveloped natural land. But in terms of parks, they have some great parks too. So there's Cool Creek Park, where you can go on trails. There's the lesser known McGregor Park as well. It really is a great place to explore, play, have fun, get out in nature. You can hike, you can bike, you can kayak. There's all sorts of stuff to do in Westfield. There's even some fishing holes that the locals are definitely taking advantage of and getting some great fishing in. So lots of fun outdoors to be had in Westfield. But the first con of Westfield goes hand in hand with that explosive growth. With growth comes construction. And yes, the growth does take its toll on the infrastructure of Westfield. So whether it's road construction from having more sort of construction vehicles coming in, heavy machinery coming in to build this great expansion, or the actual buildings themselves, cordoning off certain streets depending on where the construction needs to happen. There's a lot of construction in Westfield. I know I just said construction like 10 times, but let me say it again. There is construction. So you see that across Indianapolis with different areas booming across the city. And Westfield is definitely one of those areas that's in a big growth phase right now. which can be exciting because there's a lot of opportunity. But with that comes, maybe some delays to your commute in the morning, or some inconvenience with sound, or with different traffic patterns that emerge as a result of that construction. So it's not a forever thing, but it is a right now thing that, because of the great growth of the area, Westfield is undergoing quite a bit of construction, both in buildings and in roads. Now, the second con we're going to dive into is a recurring theme. As you've noticed, we've explored different areas on Indy's north side, but it's property prices. So while property prices are a bit less expensive in Westfield versus some of the other areas we've looked at, Carmel, Zionsville, Geist, Fishers, they are still well above the average for the Indianapolis area. So you're looking at north of 300,000, north of 320,000, really is the median home price in Westfield. So there are lots of nice homes in Westfield, but even the average home is going to be a bit more expensive than you'll see in other areas. And with that comes some of the amenities of Hamilton County, that we've talked about across different North Side videos. And it's a really well-developed area. And Westfield, as I mentioned before, is continuing to develop both in culture, the downtown, the infrastructure. But with that investment comes increased property taxes, increased home prices. So it's just something to think about when you're looking in the area. Now, another one of the cons of living in Westfield is your potential commute, depending on where you work. So Westfield's a bit far up there, right? So you have Indianapolis, which is like a big circle, and then you have Carmel right above Indianapolis. And above that is Westfield. So if you're working downtown in Indianapolis, Westfield's going to represent a longer commute than some of the other suburbs around the city, any side of the city, southwest, east, north, just because it doesn't have a direct interstate connection to Indianapolis. So if you live in Westfield, you're going to pop down 31 all the way down to 465 and begin your commute from there. So you're going to add on 10 to 15 minutes versus if you lived in Carmel or Fishers. So if you're working in Carmel, not as much of a problem. It's pretty easy commute just down 31 to Carmel. But if you're working downtown, it's definitely something to consider. It's going to add on a little bit of time each way. And as I mentioned in other videos, traffic around Indianapolis can get crazy at peak times, as it does in many cities. So just something to think about when you're planning your next move. And our last con of Westfield is the downtown, or lack thereof. Westfield is still very much a work in progress in the downtown. While there are signs throughout Westfield pointing you to the downtown, it's really just kind of a hodgepodge collection of buildings right now. But that is under development. The area is significantly under construction in that area. There's some nice new apartments there, and there are plans in the works for developing that downtown over time to give Westfield its own unique cultural footprint amongst the other cities in Hamilton County. But right now, it's still a little lacking in that department compared to some of its immediate neighbors that have maybe been developed a little earlier. And with that comes sort of more of a focus on single-family homes throughout the Westfield city area. There's a little bit less in terms of apartments or multifamily, and that just comes from the downtown still being in development, but it's coming with time. So those are our pros and cons of living in Westfield, Indiana. Let us know what you think. Did we miss anything? What else would you add on this city? So that's it for today. Be sure to hit the like button on this video, hit the subscribe button, and ring that bell so that you stay in touch with us and are kept in the loop on everything that's happening in and around Indianapolis. We can't wait to see you in the next one. I'm Evan Deal, and this is Living in Indianapolis, Indiana.